Okay, if we're going to look at the next questions here, it has to do with how our subgroups performed on a percent proficient in language arts and in mathematics. And you notice, as we said before, green is something that shows really good growth. That means we met our targets. In all of our subgroups here so far, most of the subgroups show green. You're going to notice that some of our subgroups don't show anything. For example, the African American subgroup since 2002 all the way to 2012 don't have any colors marked at all. And there's a reason for that. The African American subgroup at XYZ school are not what is called statistically significant. In order to be a statistically significant subgroup, you have to have 50 students and make up 15% of your population, or have a subgroup of 100 kids, at least 100 kids. At this particular school, the African American subgroup has never been that large, so therefore they're not statistically significant. And therefore their results do not count towards the making adequate yearly progress for the school. It doesn't count for or against it. You'll also notice the same shows up in mathematics as well. Students with disabilities also at this school is a non-statistically significant subgroup. Doesn't mean they're not significant, does not mean they're not important. They're very important to make sure that we help them do the best they can. They're just for statistical reasons, they don't count because they don't aggregate enough students. Finally, where it says Asian, you'll notice there nothing is in the Asian subgroup here. That basically means that they don't have enough students. They don't have at least 11 students. And then you have to have 11 students to show any kind of score at all. Again, it comes back to statistics on that. For that reason, they don't show there. But in this particular instance, for 2012, if you look all the way down the row here, both in language arts and in mathematics, every subgroup made their percent proficient in language arts and in math. And here's how we would record it, how I would record it on my form. As you already know, you know that they already made AYP in language arts and in math. So right here, I'm just going to write the word God. Let's see if I can't go down, work this thing here. So I'm highlighting yes here to show that all the subgroups made it in English language arts, and I'm highlighting yes here. If in your case, which subgroups missed, there were no subgroups missed. If I could type the word none or zero with a scratch through it, I would do that. I can't do it on the format right here. But I'd like you to take a look at which subgroups basically got an orange or a red on your form, because those are the subgroups that missed. So please go ahead and fill out step number 5. So I'm going to move on to the next question, number 6 on your record sheet. It says, over the last 3 years, which subgroups are missing most consistently in ELA? And as I look here on which subgroups are missing most consistently, it seems to me that the subgroups include our SED, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and our English learners. In the last 2 years have both missed in ELA back in 2010, 2011. School-wide to me is a group. I don't consider it a subgroup, and so I'm looking at our subgroups that are below the school-wide. So these two groups here are missing most consistently. However, I think it's important that you take a look also, and maybe you're not so significant subgroups. And if you take a look, our African American, for example, in 2 years they went from 30.4 to 20 in 2 years. That's not a good thing, and we need to be taking care of that. And although they're not statistically significant, that's a group of kids that we've got to pay more attention to. So I'm concerned about that. So how would we record that in our form? Well, over the last 3 years, the subgroups that were performing the worst included our SEDs, as you saw, and also our ELs. So I'm putting them in there. And then also you'll remember that our African American students lost 10 points in 2 years. And so I'm recording that as well. So would you go ahead and take a look at your what you have for ELA right now and do that recording. And then what you're going to want to also do is do the same thing for mathematics. And if you take a look at mathematics down here, you'll notice that all the 3 subgroups, Hispanic, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and English learners also. All 3 of those groups were struggling. So I'm going to record all those 3, but also take a look at the African American students, 39.1 in 2010. That score has dropped back to 28.0. Not necessarily the same kids, but that's something we need to take a look at, is what's happening with mathematics with African American students, and are we targeting kids for being successful? We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about how do we target safe harbor kids. You'll recall that the Hispanic, this SED, and the English learner subgroups all perform relatively the same in mathematics. I also added a comment about our African American students losing 12 points in the last 2 years. So I want to make sure I capture that information. And now's a good time for you guys to talk about the results. So over the last 3 years, talk about what how you're doing with math and language arts.